never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. Only shooting stars break the mold.
Welcome to another episode of the NRL Allstars podcast. Barnesy here, your host of the Allstars podcast, with a special episode. We did TLT round 11 this week, and I promised everyone within a few days I was going to get Mikey on so we could do a round 12 big buy round special before we even get to TLT. So TLT for next week, I'm actually going to be on with Tommy Sangster on the official. So I want to get in early because, Mikey, welcome aboard, mate. But I was about to say, the trades this week, they matter for your Supercoach season in round 12 as well, don't they?
Yeah, 100%. It's good to be back on. And yeah, it wouldn't be an All-Stars podcast if we weren't doing a buy chat at some time. It's, I think, a period that the pair of us excel in, but the pair of us, I feel like a lot of our planning and focus goes into that. Don't get me wrong, I'd definitely prefer it to be old school buys. It makes it a lot harder. I love the challenging aspect of it. I didn't nail it every time, but that's what made it fun. And it was, it was more skillful to be good at it. So, but nonetheless, there is still a challenge to it. And with the mini buys, that's something we didn't really have to deal with as hard. So, having a buy each round and the mini buy rounds makes it a bit challenging. So, yeah, it's definitely tough. I think this year's one's, some people overlooking it just because obviously, you can prepare good for one, but I guarantee you one of the three you'd be really light on. So it's not just tunnel visioning for getting your numbers for this one, but it's managing all six of the rounds, you could say.
Yeah, definitely. So as far as what we're going to do on this podcast, about half an hour, we're going to go through a bit of strategy talk for buy rounds in general, but obviously aim for round 12. And the reason that we're doing that as well is, like we alluded to, your round 11 trades for some teams will be critical to your round 12 cover because you'll have to do trades early to make sure that you got cover. So I want to make sure that we got this out before the round started. It's going to only be out just before the round started for Magic Round, but it'll be out there. And then we're going to go through the top players and particularly positionally our sort of strategy and who we prefer in each position and stuff for round 12 and a bit of planning before we finish up. So all about round 12, not about Magic Round, because me and Mikey are not at Magic Round. We were just lamenting how sad we both were.
Don't remind me. I'm so jealous of all you guys. But we made a pact. Me and Barnesy are going to get there next year. We'll be there next year for sure. I was that close to going this year, but just couldn't make it work with the 5-month-old. So next year for sure.
Yep, All Stars podcast will be represented next year, and Mikey can be there and be ripped between the All Stars and the SC experience because Savs will be there, no doubt as well.
Yeah, surely.
So round 12, mate, I have to say I was slightly disappointed because I just don't see it as good a round as I guess what maybe other buy rounds have been. So I was kind of interested in your thoughts on it because my general thoughts on it were just the matchups and the way things fall. We don't have necessarily the quality that other buy rounds have. And certainly if some players like the Jackson Fords and so forth get picked in Origin debuts, then it weakens and waters down the player pool for round 12 even more. So I sort of looked at it and was a bit ho-hum because I'm not seeing it as one of the best buy rounds. Doesn't mean it's not important, but I didn't really think that it had huge quality compared to maybe other buy rounds.
No, I think I agree with you in that sense. I think there's a lot of sleepers. There's a lot of these mid-range guys that, will step up and go big on their day. And that's what I've tried to stash it with. Obviously, there are some premium options that you can get. But the issue with some of the premium options available for 12 is their coverage goes extinct after that. Like you got Drinky, great. But after that, no coverage. Jerome Hughes, first one, then no coverage. So that's what makes it harder with them. Yeah, with those guns, you can stash them, but the thing you've got to think of too is as soon as 12 turns a corner, you've got to Sharks and Tigers have a lot of guys that you're going to want to have. If Nakora resurges, you're going to want to flock to him. You're going to want to have Terrell May if he keeps getting stubbed from the Blues. And from all reports, and I had a bit of an inside source from someone from the SC experience, kind of leak a team. So, and he wasn't in it. So guys like Terrell May, you're going to need to launch Kai Pearce Paul. We'll get to him, but like So when you're picking guys this week, you've got to also look ahead and go, okay, if I'm going to grab this second row that covers 12, is there anyone else that I'm going to want to sell? So it's not just about bringing guys and going, yep, I'll get him. No, it's like, well, who can you turn to him if you don't have injuries? Like, we're being spoilt for injuries, which are making it easy for me to obtain guys I didn't think I could. But I guess that's a hard management part about it. So I guess everyone's numbers are going to be made up, like, with Dragons and Storm being available for 12. A lot of us, our numbers will be made up with guys like Couchman, Lasardi, people hold set or two for that. So I've been stashing pods along the way has been my big strap, Barnesy. So I've been listening to all the pods and everyone's numbers are like 10, 11. I've been at about 17 for the past few weeks, which I think I'm ahead of the pack in numbers.
That's really big.
Yeah, it's big. I think, obviously, I'm including Ola Kawatu in that. I'm pretty confident he'll get picked, so I'll go down to 16 if Brandon Smith is named 15. But that's no other. I don't think anyone else on my side will get selected for Origin. So, but I've max traded almost. So my plan going into it is to not be tempted by Drinky. I think anywhere, even if my number drops to 14, that's good. Save 3 trades next week. So that's my plan.
You raised some big points there. So
yeah, sorry, I did a lot.
No, that's okay. So the first one is the numbers. Now, I mean, the numbers for me, because I don't rate the buy round that highly and I want to juggle the other buy rounds, and like you, I've traded a lot. I'm not too fussed on having 15, 16, 17 players. I don't love the round anyway, and I think that probably the advice that I'd give to teams, and look, if you've naturally got it, and Mikey's naturally got large numbers just because of players that he's picked through the season, like Olaquatu and so forth, or if he plays, that's fine. But as far as when you're building for round 12 specifically, I'm happy with 13. I would prefer 14 because then you can have a crappy score that doesn't count, and that's fine. But I'd be okay even with 13, just because balancing the quality of the other buy rounds and the coverage I think is pretty important. And part of that as well, Mikey, is I would really discourage people to do too many trades where they're getting in someone who isn't going to be useful later and isn't a very good player just so they have that extra number in round 12. Those sort of trades are killers. So, for example, you might bring in someone that's 350k that's averaging 35 points and they're not very good. And you think, oh, well, maybe they'll make some money or there can be a bit of cover. It's only 1 week. After that, you end up burning that trade and it's just really not worth the point. So I definitely think the quality over quantity comes into it there, and also the planning ahead of, hey, maybe you need to use some of these extra trades to have better numbers in round 15 or 18 rather than round 13. Oh, right, round 12, sorry.
Yeah, 100%. For me, I know everyone's going to like, I get it, yep, 13 is great, but for me, I think I want 14. I wouldn't be doing a wasted trade just to get to 14, but we've seen with the amount of injuries this year how important the flex is. I want to go into the buy round with a flex. Obviously, if you had trades up your sleeve, like into next week, you haven't used all your 3 and you've got 13. If you copped in one of those first games a 10 or an early score, then have a backup trade ready to go. There's ways around it. Personally, I want 15. I want 15 for the first one. I'm really behind in the ranks. I know it's a bit hard to make up, but you can still make it up if you get the right guys. But I think it's important with those 14. If say you've got 14 or even 13 and you've got guys like Drinky in there and, you've got your Folongos and all the guys with the huge ceilings I can get around it. Like if you're stacking an Izako, like you need to look at these high profile kind of guys that you can have to go with it. I think it's quality in numbers is important too, but
so that's the most important thing. I think over the next 2 rounds, you need to try and get the big hitters, and there's not that many. So you need to have the elite guys, and that should be your focus, rather than getting middling guys or guys that can still average 60 or whatever. Even if they're guns, the guys that can really hurt you, because in the big buy rounds, and this is one of my big learnings from it, captaincy matters. Vice captaincy is huge because you've got a free loop at it, and it's massive because you might only get 2 scores that are like monsters, and then it might be like a couple of other hundreds, and that's it out of the highly owned players. So if you can hit a Drinky 150, it's massive. Herbie 140, another massive one. These are some of the guys that are the big hitters, and if you don't have them, I would be sacrificing numbers to make sure that you get them, because you have to have those guys in a big buy round if you really want to make movement.
Well, yeah, 110%. Yeah, there's some guys that you can't go in there without. Drinky was definitely one that I really wanted. Like I could see myself maybe swing into it next week because he's always just so crucial for those bye rounds. But I think I'll address when I come to it. Let's have a look at the Origin side, see how much turmoil I'm in. But definitely, like guys like Herbie and stuff like that, you're going to want to have it. We'll get another look this week at Magic Round and seeing kind of where the form kind of hits. But we've seen it happen plenty of times, like where it's, I wanted to go in with a few centre wing pods that have high ceiling because it happens every year in these bye rounds where these centre wings go massive. And if I can have one that's a pod, that's one way where instead of having extreme numbers, if you have a couple of those in your score, it's really going to help you. So, yeah, I've got a lot of pods in my side, and I'm hoping it's just going to start to click over this period. So I've slowly been collecting them, and when I've been picking them, I have been thinking, about coverage when I buy. Maybe a little bit too early, and maybe that stopped me from getting Marzi last week because I went Kohler to be able to get some coverage, and it didn't work last week. But so sometimes that tactic does hinder you, but it means I'm semi-equipped for next week.
So the last thing that I'll hit on is a draw for specific teams, which you touched on early on. Really critical because round 13, we've got Souths, the Gold Coast Titans, and also the Dolphins all on the mini big bye round. And you've also got Origin backups, which people forget about. So people might say, oh, look, I can cover 5 guys out of those teams. Can you also cover the 5 guys that you've got the Origin players in that team, perhaps, that are then not going to back up, or some of them might all be on reduced minutes? Round 13 is really important. So, if I've got guys that are the elite guns, Mikey, the guys that I said, you can't do without, like the Herbies and stuff, I don't really care about round 13 being off. But when you're looking at those secondary options or those other guns, that's where it becomes important. So, for example, I know a lot of teams have gone the Asako route and the Bostock route as well. I think both of them are good in a vacuum, good trades. But if you've got Herbie, which you probably do, and you've got Bostock, and you decide to bring in Asako, you're putting yourself in a position for a lot of hurt in round 13 potentially, because you've probably got a couple of South Sydney players as well. And then all of a sudden you have 5 or 6 on the bye in round 13. You could lose a lot of the ground that you make in round 12 anyway. So the teams that you pick from are really important, particularly for those second tier guns or other placeholder guys as well. And probably the Raiders and the Dogs as well are teams that you can sort of look at because they cover a lot of the other rounds as well. And I guess that to me has always been a deal breaker, or a tiebreaker, I should say. If I'm deciding between like a Dolphin and a Raider, and the Raiders got heaps better bye coverage, then I just go with the Raider because there's not much splitting them anyway, and I'm not going to have any issues, and it really helps going forward as well.
Yeah, I love what you brought up there with the Dolphins. There's a bit more to unpack with that because Herbie, Azaka, and Bostock, out of their 2 wingers and their 2 centers, so therefore that's 3 that are really super coach relevant. The thing with the Dolphins that brings you in is if you can get past that first mini bye round, their coverage, they cover all 3. So, like example, I'm pretty light for 15. So here this week, I was like, I'm not trading anyone in to get a number for next week if they can't give me a minimum of 2. Because for 15 is the one that I'm the lowest on. So, especially if you're low on trade, you've got to ensure that you're able to help yourself more than once. And the thing is, if you're carrying Feimani, who is on a bye in 13, if you have a Makasini still that you're holding, then all of a sudden that leaves you with 2 of your Dolphins. If you get buying Bostock or Osaka this week and you have Herbie, that leaves you 2 Dolphins on the bench for 13 and that injured player if you're holding Makasini. That leaves you no room for error with injuries coming up. Like what if, one of your star players gets a HA and you really don't want to sell them because the draw is really good? It's going to put you in a tough spot. So I think that's the hard part. Like the Farnworth Isako stack, I think is amazing for points. It is, but you might find yourself in a tough spot for 30. Look, you have a trade in that round, but obviously you won't want to be moving on the gun in that round. Unless if you've got a shitload of trades, go for it.
If you boost for round 12 as well, like you burn 4 trades then, and then you got to burn another 2 in the next week. Like that's 6 trades in 2 rounds as well.
Could be handy to save the boost for that round more than boosting for that. Like that, it'd be more important to do that. If you're going to leave yourself in that spot and you've got a boost, 1 left, hold it up your sleeve for that 13 because it's just... I think the thing you'll probably get to, Barnesy, the thing that makes setting harder is you've got to also assume restings. And positioning on ladder, where they're at, can teams afford to rest? And
when they play in that weekend,
when
is
they
really
play,
big too.
so
like
yeah,
Manly
with
at
the popular
first as
plays.
well. Like I was talking to someone about Olaquatu last week, and I was like, look, Manly play the first game on the Friday after Origin. Whereas, someone like Cleary, who people have looked at as a possible sell, and I
Plays
think
the
he is
last
a
game.
possible sell, but maybe not yet because he's going to play that last Sunday game, and he'll back up for that likely. So you got to take that into account. One other thing I'll say with like that round 13, 3 teams that are on the bye is if you've got too many of one, it can also limit your pod options that you can go like. And that's a double-edged sword because it's also a real opportunity for super coaches. So, for example, Jaden Campbell, massive pod option. We all know that he's got a good ceiling. We all know that he can have some big scores and go 100 plus. But if you've committed to a number of Dolphins, then you just can't do it. Whereas other teams that have maybe hedged their bets and got 2 Dolphins instead of 4 or 3 can go, you know what, I'm going to pot up and I'm going to get a Jaden Campbell. So it does let you be a bit more open with some of those other pods that are maybe a Rabbitoh, maybe a Gold Coast Titan as well, or a Dolphin if you've got it, the other way around and you've got heaps of Titans, etc. So, but look, that's a heap of strategy that we've talked about, heap of opinion on the bye rounds. We need to talk about some players quickly. I'm just going to go through position by position because I think it's important because people need to understand, especially new super coaches, that you really don't have to fill a position, so don't get too carried away. And I say that introducing our hooker spot, Mikey, because, hooker's not very good at the best of times. And Harry Grant is the number one that's going to be playing round 12, and the next best one's Damien Cook, who you just can't go for. I will say there is a couple of interesting little options. Oliver Pascal is a really good trade in this week, and he's going to give you that cover. And he's obviously got a lower break even, and he got 80 minutes for the first time in his career last week. So he's a cheap option, I think, that you could consider, but I'd be going him this week because of his break even and so forth. Whereas the premium option, I actually think Max Plath is a bit of a sneaky one. I don't think he'll make the Origin side, but he is a chance.
He could, and that makes it hard. You'd rather wait till next week where... Oh, I think Pasco's the man. Like, I think there is a world where you can wait a week. Do you want to see that he's playing 80 minutes again? Do you want to see how that's going? Like, worst case, if he does have an 80-minute roll lockdown and he keeps his high work rate up, you'd pay $400K for him. I know it's a lot better to pay the $350 that he's worth now, but it's not the worst. Like, it is a very tempting upgrade to go Brandon Smith to him. But my thought process is there's some bigger positions where I want to score points for now. To just not worry about a hooker. Hope that maybe Brandon Smith comes back next week, but the Bunnies cover all 3. So if he doesn't come back next week, it's fine. I'm hoping I get Brandon Smith back for 15. So that's my play there. But Pasco, all right, if you want to hook for that round, yeah, I agree with you. I think he's a better option at his price.
Well, I love Max Plath as an option as well if he doesn't play Origin. That's just the thing. It's $550K, but the thing that I like about Plath is, like you said, rightly so with the Dolphins, nobody has a bad draw depending on what you're looking for, If you can cover round 13 and you can put all these Dolphins in, then go for it. Because after that, like you said, they've got a good run. And the thing with Plath is that he's a hooker, but he's also a second-row forward. So I like that you could bring him in and move him to your second-row forward, and he's a potential keeper that you can just keep at your end of your bench, have some flexibility there. He's averaged 65 points across his last 4 games, and he's shown that before as well. We know he can just keep doing that. And I like that he's still doing well with Jeremy Marshall-King there. But the underrated move at hooker, Mikey, which I alluded to by introducing that first position, just don't trade there. And like I saw someone with Grant and Brayley there that was talking to me yesterday, long-time listener, I'm pretty sure, from memory. And I actually said, look, why don't you just trade somewhere else? Like, they were going to trade Brayley out. I'd probably rather just keep Brayley, especially if he doesn't make Origin. Just trade somewhere else and just leave
hooker. That's no headache in hooker for the year. Like, you've already got to that point. Like, just leave it.
Yeah, I think hooker's definitely a spot that you can leave. It's pretty bare. Front row forward. Now, this is an interesting one too because Jackson Ford's by far and away the best option for round 12, but he could play Origin. When we've got these bigger benches now, Mikey, I think that he likely does. Maybe he doesn't get on the field, but I think he's in the squad. So that makes it really difficult. My guy to bring in is actually someone that you copied me on a few weeks ago. But we didn't know that you were going to copy me because we didn't actually talk about it.
Both had the same play, and that's why I was listening to every podcast, and you're the only one to go into it and like it. And I go, of course he likes it. That's great.
Joey,
it's been a great buy. I've had him for 2 weeks.
I have been so happy with Tapani since we brought him in 3 weeks ago. He's gone
At the price too. And the coverage was the main thing. And at this period, you always get him. And because of all these other big options, I know he might not be as exciting as someone like Jackson Ford, but for what he can give me for the price and with the amount of injuries that forward pack have, they need him.
His minutes have been really consistent in that mid-50s type of range now. In the last 2 weeks, he's gone 85 and 72. That 85 was with his first major attacking stat of the year with a try assist. 85 and 72, still hasn't scored a try, and now plays 12 and 15. And that's really handy, like we were saying, if you can get someone in that's going to cover the next 2 big buy rounds, and he's got round 13 cover for you as well. I think that it's a great trade, and
He plays
at
all mini buy
610,000, it's decent value. We know he came off a 72-point season last year, 67-point season the year before. He's only on a 63 average now. That's likely to rise. And he's a guy that you can just keep to the end, even if he's your third front row forward. But he might even emerge again. You know, like he's had runs in the final third of seasons averaging 78 points a game plus, where he could just be one of the top 2 front row forward options for you, depending on how things fall. So he's my pick. But I mean, what do you also think about Ford? Do you think it's worth going there? I don't think you can this week, but obviously next week you could assess and you could pay up for him as well. And it's got to be worth it with how he's playing too.
Yeah, I think obviously if he doesn't get picked for Origin, you'd have to look at it, mainly because I reckon they pick someone like Barnett, which I think they should choose Ford over him, but I reckon Barnett, Capewell could be in the mix. There's going to be some guys missing in that pack, so there's going to be more minutes on offer if he does miss out. Like he's back to the bench this week, but either way, I'll be tempted whether or not I can, because if I don't go someone like Jackson Ford, I don't own 12, I don't own Terrell May. So when it gets to 13, I might want to just use that money to get Terrell May instead, because I think it'd be very hard. I don't own Latrell. So I don't have all this Latrell money that all you guys are going to have. So I would probably be able to only choose one. And the way I look at it is, if say Ford misses out, I think he's 1 injury away from getting picked in the next one. Where someone like Terrell May, they just keep snubbing him. Daly doesn't like him, and the Tigers will then cover 2 after it. So if I'm picking right now, I think I prefer Terrell May. So I'd hold on, but I'd be tempted. I think he's one of the best options for next week if he's in the Warriors line.
Yeah, for sure. But the key is too that Jackson Ford's more than 200k more than Tapani. He's obviously scoring much better, but 200k is a lot of money.
He's the best pick in this position. Like, I know you can make an argument for Toby Couchman, but the fact, because the Dragons do cover a couple too, but for the price, for the pedigree, I can't tell you the last time I haven't had him for a buy period. And the best part about bringing him in, you don't need to sell him. You can hold him in your side all year. He's someone that you don't, eventually when you got 3 going from roll, you don't have to play him every week, but he's pretty safe his floor's pretty low, and the Raiders are going to have to win games, and he's their captain. So to me, he's out and out the best pick if you need a front row. Even if you didn't have Jackson Ford, call me crazy, but I would still pick Tapane over Ford, because that is 235k. If you had about $1 million in your bank,
it's a lot of money.
But it's a lot, 200k. Like I mentioned in the start of the podcast, of all the guys that are going to be coming on the target list as soon as his first buy clears. So you've then got to have a look at that and make sure you've got the cash to get those guys. Like, even if you don't have Iro's another big one. So there's so many big buys, and I don't even know how I'm going to get them. So I think you just got to start looking at cash management as well.
So you mentioned Toby Couchman as well. So he's another massive option, 670,000. He has to be an option. He's playing really well. 69 points on the weekend, but the big thing was that he went 63 minutes again. And the week before, he was 71 minutes for 75 points, 60 minutes for 107 with a try in there as well. 84 3-round average, 78 5-round average. He's been killing it. There's no other way around it. And there's a lot of it that's in raw base. Like, he's going to go 60 plus in raw base, let alone his power stats added in there. So he's a great option. I think the problem for me is that we haven't seen those big minutes consistently yet throughout his career, but including this season. He's doing it lately. Does he play less than, that? And it's 70 odd minutes a game over his last, 5 games. What if that goes down to 60? Last year it happened and he went down to like 55 to 60 for some games. And that just caps him so much, and particularly in a Dragon side that doesn't have any attack, and his game's so prefaced on the big work rate and everything. Like, I get a bit worried with him at that price. Now, he could bust out, and this could be his bust out season, Mikey, where he plays the rest of the year. He's the Dragons' forward leader. He really emerges, and I could see that happening. And he averages 70 plus. But there is flags there as well to consider, which is why I sort of gravitate towards someone like Tapani, just because we know what we're getting, type of thing.
Yeah, for the 70k more, he does give you a jewel, which could be handy for your side, but he'd probably be one with the break even at 79, you don't have to pounce this week. And personally, with how the Dragons are going, I don't want too many Dragons, but he covers you 2 buys as well. The difference is that the Raiders cover all mini buy rounds. The Dragons missed the final mini buy round and they missed the middle buy round.
Yeah, round 15's a killer for me with him as well. Not covering 15 is big.
Yeah, for me, I'm looking at my numbers for 18, and I've got a lot more players for 18 at this stage, barring injury, where 15 for me is my toughest of the 3. So you got to look at those things, and when you pick it between 2 guys, which cover is going to help you more? But he's a good option if you need it. Like, there is actually so many front row options, which is crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, we've got to limit ourselves, Mikey. I've got to limit you because I know you'd like to talk for 2 hours, but we've got to get you to work later on, otherwise I'll get in trouble. So
I'm going to stop today, but yeah, let's keep pushing.
Well, we got to watch the Sharks at 6 o'clock. Magic round's going to kick off.
Yeah, 100%. Let's go.
I always talk about a little black book. Have a little black book for your round 12 big buy round and other big buy rounds too, of Origin guys that might not make it that you might want to swivel for and get them instead and change your plans. I've been watching Corey Hillsborough for a few weeks now. I didn't get him in particularly because I think he'll make the Queensland Origin side. Keon Koloamatangi is almost 500k, which is super cheap. He's not been playing well, carrying that injury. He's getting better and better by the week though. Those are a couple of guys there that might be options next week to consider, particularly for a value option in Koloamatangi if they don't get picked for Origin. We do this second row forward spot now, and then we're done with the forwards. It is an interesting spot because I think there's a lot of guys like Lasardi who are there that a lot of people own who are scoring really well that you're going to be able to plug in. But some of the other top guys aren't going to be available now. Hudson Young, Origin, Fini Filiaki, got to be a shoe-in for Origin, I reckon. Ola Kawatu as well. Sasangi is now injured. And Lukey could make Origin too. So 5 out of the top 6 averaging second row forwards for Supercoach in round 12 aren't going to be playing that round probably. And then it becomes really tough because then you've got a really expensive Tallis Duncan and a whole heap of other cheaper options. I looked at this, and one of the things that I sort of said to myself was, look, if we're going to assume that a lot of these guys are going to play Origin, then we're in that sort of 500 to 600 range, and there's not a lot there that I like. And then I found someone this week that I was like, you know what? It's a bit of a ballsy play, but I'm going to do it. And I've done it this week, and that is Leka Halasima. And I've done it because he's only 400,000. He has been putting up absolutely awful, putrid, terrible raw-based numbers, and his work rate's been horrible. But he plays a Broncos edge this week where he can get some attack. But this is the other big thing, Mikey, with round 12. You got to play the matchups as well. Target which couple of games you think there's going to be points in. And you look at round 12 and he's got the Dragons. And that's a game where you just go, wow, I want some Warriors involved in that game. The Warriors are going to be largely unaffected by Origin aside from maybe Capewell. And Leka Halasima running at that Dragons edge at 7.6% ownership at the moment at 400k. I've got him in now. And I think that he's my value purchase for second row forward for buy cover.
Great minds think alike, Barnesy. He's one of my trade-ins this week. Look, if you followed my track last year, I brought in Leka last year, and he was a great pod for me, and I played him on matchups. And I'll do the same thing. Won't play him this round, but my main thing was if I purchased him this week, he gives me 2 covers, but I was able to get Greg Marzhew with my side from Faimani. So that's what made me do it. I went Sasangi down to him because I was like, look, if I'm going to do it, I want double coverage. And I want to be able to get Greg. Let's find a way to get Greg because Greg's giving me flashbacks to Latrell Mitchell. So that's why. But yeah, Leka at 403k, play on matchups, and he's someone that you can just plug there as a second rower for sure. And you just playing when he fires. Like the tries will have to come. Like the minutes are good. It's just those tries last year is getting bagging a few doubles and stuff. Yeah, I think he's a great value purchase. The fact he covers 2. I thought the Warriors only covered 1. That's why I didn't like it. And then I had a look. Was it 2? It's like, hell yeah, I'm in.
And it's also his immediate draw. And again, like that Dragons game's a target game. There's you've got half as many games in a bye round to really pick from. And that means that there's, 50% less chance that you're going to have some big blowout score games that you're going to have a piece of. So you want to make sure that the 2 games that might have the most points in them, that you've got enough in it, and a Dragons matchup is an obvious one for that. There is another guy that's kind of similar as well, and that is Zach Hosking. Now, Hosking's 483,000, so he's slightly more, but he got 80 minutes last week and he scored 73 points. It's his first 80-minute game of the year. And he is someone who, I guess, is a little shaky on job security normally, even when he does start. They are on a bye this week, so you're going to see where he's named next week. But in saying that, they've got Noah Martin now out, maybe for the season. They've got Sasangi out 4 to 6 weeks, and Sasangi was filling in on that edge. They've got even what the young kid's name? It wasn't Roddy. Roddy was out as well now. So they've just gone through 3 starting second rowers, and I just don't think that they've got anyone left to stuff around. So Hosking seems to probably have that job, and he's coming off a season last year where he averaged 63 points a game and had a lot of tries in there. He hasn't scored a try yet this year, and he's going to play the Dolphins in round 12. Now, yeah, he has been out because of a concussion, but you'd imagine he's probably going to be back from that. Obviously, we can wait till TLT to make sure he's named, but he's supposed to be. So, I mean, he's probably the other value pick that I sort of saw. And these, I said, Mikey, don't just get cheap guys in or lower price guys for 1 week or whatever, or guys that you're not going to keep to the end. But guys like Hosking, guys like Leka Halasima, these are guys that you could end up, like Halasima in particular, you could end up just keeping long term and plug and playing for runs and stuff. But even Hosking, like, at least he's going to make money and have a defined role for a period of time that he's going to cover multiple buys.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, agree with you there. I don't mind Hosking at all. But yeah, just more so, obviously can't do it now or early. Wait till next week.
And look, there's a slew of other guys that are going to play Origin as well. I saw Jacob Preston at 600k. I don't like how the Bulldogs are playing. But
They turn a corner.
Do you think that he doesn't get picked for Origin because of the form of the Dogs?
I thought he was a shoo-in. It looked like at all the predicted teams he was ahead of Olakau'atu, but I think just form seems like it's played him out of it. And I think there's probably every chance. I hope it doesn't, but they probably could potentially pick Tallis Duncan over Preston on the bench. It just depends, because Laurie picks who you wouldn't pick. He's shocking with the picking. So, look, yeah, there's a world. Yeah, I don't think he'll get picked. But if he doesn't, and, even if the Bulldogs look better this week, they look great against Penrith and then they fell off a cliff. So at that price, but he's come down to a price and we know when he's scoring tries, he'll do good. That 54, mind you, was with a 10 in the bin. So I don't hate it if you need one. And the Doggies covered 2 buys as well.
Actually, the Dogs don't. I just looked at it. I think I might have made a mistake earlier thinking that they covered 2 as well.
Someone said they covered 2. Everyone's making out like they cover 18. No, they don't. No,
they don't play round 15 and they don't play round 18. So I apologise for our mistakes, everyone, that we mentioned the Dogs a couple of times. They don't. Their actual buy schedule is not good. They've only got the round 12. So, but one thing that I will say with Preston, though, and the Dogs, is that the draw itself on teams that they do play is actually very good if he's not playing Origin. The Storm in round 12, you wouldn't say that's a target game as such, but they've been giving up points anyway, Mikey, and then they're going to have a number of players out for Origin.
Huge monster.
So, that's pretty big. And then they play the Tigers and the Eels in back-to-back games. Don't play round 15. But then they're at home versus Manly and away versus the Titans. So it is a pretty good 5-game run for them, including the round 12 bye. But you just wouldn't want too many. But certainly Preston is a guy that you could just set and forget. I guess you made the point earlier, though, that he's another guy that might be only one injury away from getting into the side if you do bring him in and, someone happens to go down for the Blues.
Yeah, but he's definitely someone you could plug in and run home with him. So, especially if the Dogs go on a tear at the end of the year, like you're going to get him for 600k, could be a really good trade.
And you're a bit down on Tallis Duncan as an option since he's now over 700k. He hasn't really kicked on lately the way people that bought him a few weeks ago wanted him to.
I'm an owner, got him before the big score, so I got him at just under 600k. But I wouldn't be tempted to buy him at that price, but he seems to do this. He has a few big ones, goes a little quiet, and then has a few big ones. So he's definitely a big gun player. I'm happy to take him to the Origin, into that period, because I think he'll provide some good coverage for me. But I think he's a slight outsider. But yet again, I'd probably prefer to just take a stab on a few of these cheaper guys. He's obviously he's got a high break even this week, so if he doesn't get picked for Origin, he pumps out another 60, then maybe he could be a play next week if your numbers are all right for the first mini.
He's only 11.7% owned as well, so it could definitely be a big play still.
Yeah.
Look, let's move along and talk about halfback. This one is tough. Tanner Boyd is down to 606,000, and I just can't believe that we're talking about him as an option, but he deserves credit because he's averaging over 80 points a game. He's going to be playing and goal kicking against the Dragons in that round 12 bye. That is as good as you could go as far as a big balls play at 6.8% ownership. And the thing is, not a lot of people are going to be able to make the play because they're going to be stuck with fullbacks in flex and two halfbacks already. And that makes it really complicated to try and get another halfback in your side. So to me, Boyd was the pick for the round. And I don't actually think many people will get him. And he's a reasonably affordable price at around 600.
Yeah, I think if you want to stack a half, I think, him and Campbell are good, or even Jerome Hughes for that one we played. But it's just, I'm not interested in selling my halves. Like, I know everyone's going to want to sell clear of this period. I'm at the camp that I've used too many trades. I'm just going to hold him if I can. I've got Hines in the other camp who's going to be great for the rest of the coverage. So I'm just not looking to make a move there. But for the people that are, that Tanner Boyd matchup is juicy in the buy round. That's what you got to look at.
And this is going to be one of the biggest things, right? Like if you've, I think it could really define how you go around that Origin period, whether you actually trade one of your halves or you hold strong and you're able to play them the next week, sort of thing. And bearing in mind that Nico Hines is obviously going to cover future buy rounds as well, so that's huge. So it's very hard to trade Nico, and if you trade Cleary, he's probably going to play round 13, and he could put on another 100+ score. So, some luck could come into it, or just team builds on whether you can actually get a Tanner Boyd in, or even a Preston Campbell, like you mentioned, because he's someone that could go big as well, and he's only 648,000. And if you look at it, 103 break even this week, he could get more towards the 600k that Tanner Boyd's at as well. So, two good options. Certainly, you raise a good point that it's a good option just to leave it as is. And I reckon it's 50-50, team dependent, and also your strategy and whether you've got other players. Jerome Hughes seems to be the forgotten one, though, so I just want to touch on him. You mentioned him. I originally had plans, like I always do, to have Hughes at this point of the year. Because of how the Storm are going, I kind of went cold on that. And mainly because, to me, it was going to be, Dogs away, not great matchup. And then they've got the Roosters the next week, Newcastle, and then the round 15 bye. And then they don't play round 18 either. So because the Storm don't cover 2 out of the 3 major big bye rounds, I sort of got pretty cold on Hughes as an option, but he can always bust out 100+ in a bye round and really break it open for you.
Yeah, and if he goes big in that bye round and then Storm do something similar to what Penrith did last year, I don't think they can. But if they go on the improve, then you're getting Jerome Hughes at 629k, and he'd have a big part of that, comeback. So that is a pros and cons there, but it's just tough. If you've got a spare flex position, then you might be in the power to make a move like this. But like what you alluded to earlier with Nathan Cleary, potentially, he might not get rested that first one. It's harder to then make a move in that halfback position where if you think he's going to get rested for all the 3, then you could take a stab on some of these guys. So I think that's what's going to limit a lot of players.
Yeah, and like I looked at Tanner Boyd, to be honest, and when I'm going to go him instead of Hughes because I was going to trade Sam Walker out. And if Sam Walker doesn't get picked for Origin, he's going to play round 15. And it's like, well, I'm going to really want Sam Walker for round 15. So what do? You're really stuck. But let's move along to the next spot. And halfback's definitely a spot that you could leave and not do anything with as far as your trading goes. 5'8" spot, talk about spots that you could leave. You could definitely leave this one. We do have Jake Clifford, but I reckon that Jake Clifford's going to get picked in Origin. Matt Burton, I think he's going to be on the extended bench as well. The guy that I gravitated towards, though, and that I'm warming to a trade in, a real smoky at 5.8%. 610,000 more than what I want to pay, but I've got the Latrell cash, like you said. I've looked at Ethan Strange. We talked about the Raiders covering the next bye round as well in round 15, and it's a round that they play against the Eels as well, so it's a pretty good one. Before he went down injured, went 16 points injured, but before that he was 91, 78, 95. And the game after his injury, he's come back against Penrith and scored 95 points again. Including a 16-point outing, he still has a 5-round average of 75. And if you remove that injury-affected game, it's a hell of a lot higher. He has been playing really well lately, and the Raiders' draw in this middle period of Origin is actually really good. And he's a guy that I figure I could sort of get Pezzett up to him and leave Strange in with Munster and have my 5'8" set for the year, basically, and just not touch it again. So I actually really like Strange as a bit of a pod option, even though 5'8" is such a terrible position to be trading at.
Yeah, I love the Strange play. He went on runs last year. He's got good coverage, and the price isn't that bad. I'm like you. I think if you have Pezzett still, it is handy to try and go up. That's why I went Fletcher Sharp last week, because now, pending injury, I'll leave Walker and Sharp there. So I'm not looking for a 5'8" for any of the bye rounds. Walker covers all three. I'm happy enough with that. But yeah, I think it is important to, if you've got that spare spot, that is a handy way you can turn a number. Pezzett's not, making it back, like he's struggling to get back in the side, and Parramatta's coverage is pretty shit. So you can flip the Strange and give you 2. I rate.
Yeah, and I would just say, while we move to centre wing, if you're going to trade at 5'8", I would only trade in a keeper at this point. I think it's a waste if you're not going to. So for me, if I get Strange in, I'm happy to keep him as one of my rotation sixes for the rest of the year. Centre wing, this is where it gets really interesting, because Herbie Farnworth is obviously the premium. If you don't have him, I think he's a must-have. Then you've got Bostock and Jermaine Asako. Now, it's hard because I want to say that Jermaine Asako is the priority as a goal kicker. He's still only 13% owned, although that'll rise this week. But at 762,000, it's so much more money than I want to pay for Asako. Whereas Bostock, I think, is a worse option because he doesn't have the goal kicking floor, but he's only 500,000. And it's funny because I remember getting Asako in for this type of money last year, I'm pretty sure, if not the year before. And it was coming off a big score and whatever, and he just pounded out all these 30s and 40s, and it was the worst investment I've ever made. I lost like 300 grand on him. He came good with another big score, and then I just punted him. It's sort of what Asako does. So I don't think either of those options are as consistent, Mikey, as what people think they are at the moment. But, it's hard because Asako is very expensive now, whereas normally we'd be sort of looking towards him in that sort of 500k range, which is where Bostock is. And can you have 3 of them with Herbie Farnworth as well? All big questions for the centre wing.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Look, he's killing it. The centre wing's starting to pop off. I could get around it. Like, if you've got Marzahue, I know a lot of guys that are going like double Asako, W Marzahue. We alluded to it earlier in the podcast, Barnesy, about talking about not stacking up on too many Dolphins, but I definitely think you can go there, but I seem to always like to go the cheaper guy. I think, you still get a piece of it, like you said, with Bostock. 262k cheaper, go Bostock. And if you go on that, what else does that give you? That's the question you might ask. But Asako is definitely the kind of guy. Yeah, the Canberra matchup's not amazing in Canberra, but he's the kind of guy that can scare, or will scare you, but can hurt you in a bye round. So I seem to always fade him. And, I think he was a great sell last week. And if you are interested in Asako, grab him this week with the break-even 11, so then you get 2 games out of it before they don't cover that next one. So, but like the fact that he covers all 3 and he's going to be one of the top premium centre wings apart from Herbie, it's why it is very tempting. So I get it.
If he does what he's done this year, he's been way more consistent this year. He's got a low of 41. His next lowest score is 47. He's been sensational, but he's averaging 87 points. The last 2 years he's won 62 and 63 points, and he's had these big scores in him before. Like last year, he had 3 tons, including a 132-point game. But look at this run of scores that he's got. He went 96 round 1 last year, and I remember everyone going, "Oh wow, Asako, 39, 30, and 34 3 weeks in a row," and he's just littered with that. You look at the run home, round 22, 64, 27, 39, 27, 44, last game of the season goes bang for 110. He can easily have a 5-round average of 42 points while you're waiting for those big scores. But this year he's been a lot better. So, whether that can continue or not is anyone's guess, but you're paying top dollar for him, and I think that's the biggest thing. It's if you got the money to do it, like Mikey said, it's great points and it's great cover aside from round 13. But if you don't have the money to and you're really pushing to do it, I wouldn't think that it's a must-have for the round for centre wing. There is some other options there. At least Johnston has been going really well. 86 points per game. He's now 832,000. I'm going to say that he's too expensive. And then when you're looking at it, we have these Manly guys like Lehigh Hopewadi and Kohler. I was big on Kohler 2 weeks ago and I traded him in for buy cover. He's now playing centre, but he's still only 580,000. So I do think that him and, to a lesser extent, Hopper, because of the price, are options for Manly as well, and they have been buy cover specials in prior years.
Yeah, I jumped on Kohler last week, as I alluded. It's a little bit harder in centre wing, but he's still at a good price, and Manly are playing good footy. They play great under Foz. Everyone, I believe in Fozball. So, yeah, I think he's still a great cut price option. That does have a ceiling on his day. And I think their matchup's pretty friendly as well for that buy round.
It is the Gold Coast Titans, which
it is extremely friendly.
Need to target. So to me, Mikey, we have to have one or two Manly guys. We have to, don't we?
Yeah, and it's more so like who you can get it's hard because I want to be bringing in keepers, so there's not too many that I want to grab. But yeah, I agree with you. You want to at least have one, and they cover 2 buys, not 15, but they cover the first and the third, and I'm pretty sure they cover all the mini buys. So their coverage is good.
Yeah, I like Kohler as the pick just at the value at 580, and he's at 9% ownership now, so he's still in pod territory. Ruben Garrick is there coming off a 93-point outing at 2.6% ownership, but Fogarty's been out. He's back now. He doesn't have the goal kicking. I'll tell you one that's super interesting, though, and this was my smoky for the round. Jacob Carraz at 606,000 is actually due back round 12. Whether he comes back or not, and whether you want to go there with that injury, I tell you, that could be the big balls pod for round 12 could be getting Jacob Carraz in if he returns.
Yeah, definitely one to keep an eye on. Centre wing's the one where you can take a bit of a gamble because all they need is some tries and like a run of form. So it's definitely the one that you can have a go at it. But I guess when you start to get to the lower end, they start to look a little ugly. I guess Tane Tool Picky's one. Had him in my side earlier. Like
he was my next guy I was going to race.
Yeah, if he continues to have that fullback swap, but the thing is, they constantly keep going back to Chance. He's so frustrating. That's what happened to me when I owned him and he burnt me. But if he doesn't, him at fullback against the Dragons is absolute. It's great, and his price is fairly cheap. It's just the job security is always a worry with him, unless Chance had a long-term injury. And after already having, I couldn't bring him back. But I think he's great. The fact he covers 2, price is good.
Yeah, 529,000 is really good. And everyone should be able to tell how late the podcast has gotten here because it's gotten dark in my room and I didn't get up and turn the light on.
We tried.
We tried so hard. Look, let's just go straight to fullback because this is a big one to talk about. Back options, Suafa'alongo is the number one averaging guy, and he's now down to 680,000. So he's dropped a little bit of cash. He is affordable, and he's also coming off an injury, so he's got 105 break even this week. Though I am worried that he'll hit that against the Eels. Scotty Drinkwater, 780,000, 8.6% ownership. Now that's why he's my pick. Drinkwater's 8.6% owned. Fa'alongo is 61.7% owned. In a perfect world, I would have both. But if you're doing that sort of move, then you're sacrificing like a James Tedesco or one of these other premium options that aren't playing out at fullback or your flex spots. So it is hard to have both. I think that having both, though, is massive if you can do it. I'm choosing Drinkwater just purely because of the 8.6% ownership. They're averaging 10 points apart, but I do think that Drinky could outscore him for the buy round. So I like Drinky, but yeah, would you move heaven and earth to have both of them, Mikey, just to go, I'm going to have 2 of the big hitters for round 12?
I know earlier I said I'll save all 3, but the reason why I potentially will have both is I own Tedesco and Edwards. And if Edwards is picked for Origin, he's definitely going to be a sell. It's going to be hard to hold Cleary and Edwards over this period.
Yeah.
So that's what will make, and to me, with how good Edwards has been going, I'll make money on that trade. So I'm looking at like Tedesco, someone that I'll probably hold through it, but Edwards is someone that I probably won't. And I believe there's a good chance that they pick both of them. So one of them on the 19 million squad. So potentially, if he isn't, I could see myself switching to him. But if not, then I'm happy to just have Folongo. Mainly, like, I think they're both great options, and I think Folongo will be scary. I know what you said with the high ownership, but he'll be the kind of guy, if he goes absolutely nuts against the Bulldogs, they play semi-ish early, he will be heavily, like, everyone will have a VCLC on him that owns him. So they're the kind of ones when you don't own that guy, it can help you. All these pods that you're picking,
So
it can
scary.
absolutely shoot you in the foot. So where a guy like Drinky, he'll be heavily brought in next week. But I remember last year I brought him in for this period, and I was like, oh, you got to have it for him to just pump out a 70. So I'm only going to do that switch trade next week if I look at it and I'm happy with his draw. I haven't had a dig in it, but I've got to be happy with his draw moving forward, and I've got to be willing just to keep him for kind of a... Just the fact that he only gives me one cover is what makes me... I need to think, is there a better fullback or halfback that I can own that's going to give me 15 and 18 cover? That would what would sway me off Drinky. But I agree with you. Drinky for Longo, that'd be an ultimate, cover for next round.
Yeah, and it's a shame both of them don't cover 15 or 18, which is
he'd
what
be a
makes
must
it really hard.
if he covered two buys. No-brainer. I'd almost say he's a must.
I think
Drinky.
I'm just gonna grit and bear it with Suafolongo and just hope that he doesn't ton, and just roll with Drinky. But look, if you've got Sua, I saw a couple of people saying they thought about selling Sua because of the 45 and high break even. Oh, man, he's such a good hold for round 12. I wish I could have him
playing.
both.
I was so scared when he went down. I was like, oh my God. It's like Barnesy and Sabstrigan sold him, and now he's not playing, and Simi to go down the same week. I was like, oh, this guy's luck is incredible. He's back, so it's good, and two great matchups.
It would be remiss of me not to mention the fantastic partner of the NRL Allstars podcast in One World Courier. So go oneworldcourier.com.au today and you can sign up for a free account. And when you do, it'll say, how did you hear about us? Just put NRL Allstars podcasts. They'll give you a great rate to start with. But what they are is basically compare the market type of website for any freight or shipping needs that you have domestically or internationally, whether it's for you, the business that you own, or the business that you work for. You can jump on there. They'll show you all the rates and all the different carriers you can choose from, and you just pick what you want and they take care of it all. They are fantastic. They're also a major jersey sponsor of the West Tigers now, and they've got their own West Tigers giveaways for all your Tigers fans. So go and check that out as well. But they're a fantastic partner of the All-Stars podcast for 3 years running. So if you do have any freight or shipping needs, go and jump on oneworldcourier.com.au today. Mikey, well done. We went way over. It is pitch black in my room, but we got the podcast done. So thank you very much for jumping on and sharing your thoughts for round 12 for a bye round special, mate.
No worries, and I hope everyone enjoys Magic Round. And if you're listening to this after Magic Round, I hope you had a good time. So, enjoy and get ready for the buys. I love this time of year for Supercoach. It's where it gets fun.
Love it, love it, love it. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Really appreciate it. Make sure you do jump on iTunes, Spotify, and also YouTube, and hit subscribe and like, and follow us on all the major social media platforms. But enjoy Magic Round either from your lounge room, or if you're there, I will try and get there next year. But until next week, jump on and watch us on the Sangster podcast with the official Supercoach guys. I'll talk about the bye round in more detail for TLT. Until then, I can't wait to talk more footy again with everyone real soon.
You'll never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid.